Hello everyone, I'm here today to show you how to make this wallet style album. This started off because I was asked if I could make an album which had a nice deep pocket in the middle to show pictures and things a child had made, so that the middle then would have space to put all these bits in, folded paper and things. So in the centre you'll find a pocket which is nice and deep and big, so you can do exactly that. So it has a waterfall. And then I decided to wrap the central pocket with the sides, so as these pages fold in on themselves, they're actually building the sides around the pocket. Now I made a similar album a long time ago, and I said I wasn't happy with the middle, so this is how the new middle looks now. So we've got a little photo mat which holds this gatefold closed. We've got room for some tags here. So these are cut using the Lisa Horton tag dies, which are brilliant. And here's that pocket in the middle where you can put all the child's photos, documents, and so it's quite a big thick space there. So this is the bit where I've changed it from the original design. So all the pages fold up into a nice thick bit there, and we've got a waterfall on top as well. So I'll put this aside. We'll grab some chipboard and some construction tape and my trimmer and be right back. So to start with, I've cut my chipboard ready. Now this is 1.5mm chipboard, and I've cut two pieces, one for the front and one for the back, at 7 and 11/16 by 6 and 11/16. And then the spine is 7 and 11/16 as well, and 7/8 of an inch wide. So I use my construction tape. Now everyone asks, what is construction tape? Well, that's what it's called, so I can't quite explain anymore. It's by My Creative Spirit by Claire Charville. And here's the roll I'm using. So I use this to cover my edges and for creating my hinges. So I start off, I'm going to cover 3 sides with the tape. So I just pull a length, I weigh down at the end, and I'm just going to place my chipboard piece on its end. I don't need to go right up to the edge because that's going to be covered later, so you can save a little bit of tape there. And then I'm keeping my tape nice and taut and placing my chipboard down, gently peeling off some more tape and upending it again to there, and I'm just going to trim it off. Flip back on itself. It's quite robust tape. It can take quite a bit of handling. There we go. So I've covered 3 sides. So now what I'm going to do is going to cut a V out of the tape towards the corners. Remove the tape. And again, cut a V. The tape and flipped it over and doing the same again. So I'm just cutting towards my chipboard and cutting a wedge out of the tape. So it's just a small little V like that. So I'm gently going to tease the tape onto the chipboard and then press it down. So again, tease it onto the chipboard and press it down. And on the long side, tease it onto the chipboard and press it down. So those V's just give you a nice finished corner without the extra bulk if you just cut straight down. So we've covered the other side as well, exactly the same. And I'm just going to grab my tape and I'm going to cut just a little, couple of slivers, and I'm going to cover the top and bottom of my spine. So there we've got all our edges covered. It's now time to do the hinges. So I'm using my tape again. I'm going to cut a piece which is just an inch longer, top and bottom of my covers. Cut that a bit short. I'll try to stay in the frame, that's right. There we are. So I'm going to get rid of one of the covers for now. And I'm going to place my tape down. And I'm just going to catch the edge of my cover. I'm going to line my spine on top. Holding them together, bring it towards me, it's a bit easier. I'm just going to flip them onto the tape and holding them again, flip it down. So that'll give me my double width of chipboard in between my two pieces of chipboard. So then it'll fold a bit easier. So just pulling it taut and pressing it down. I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one. So just an inch longer each side. You don't have to measure it or anything, it doesn't have to be precise. If it's longer like this one, it doesn't matter. Just be careful you don't let it curl on itself. Right, this time I'm going to put the cover on top. So I'm going to line up those corners, but I'm also going to look here and here to make sure those are lined up as well. Hold it all together. Flip it over. Let it catch itself. So this is where you've got to be careful if it's long. Right. And pull the tape taut. Now that piece that was a bit short earlier, I can use that just to cover the hinge there. Is that going to be long enough? No, let's just get another piece. And there we have it. Our cover is made. I like this method because it's strong and the hinges work really easy without the paper tearing when you cover it in paper. So yeah, my tip is get some construction tape. So we've got our cover. Now a bit different, it's not the front and back this time, but rather it's going to be a top. So this is my front. This is my top flap. This is my bottom flap. And this is my back. So just so I put the cover on correctly at the end. So our cover's made. It's time now to get the cardstock and start making our pages. So the next step now is to cut our pages. So once again, I'm using my foundation cardstock, which is a 220 GSM. So I'm going to start off by working on the top flap to our album. So we're going to have a base for it, and the base is 6.5 by 7.5. So this is the top flap base. So just write it on it so I know what it is later on. And I'm going to turn it upside down and place it down. The reason I do that is when I come to do the scoring things, they'll still be in the same order that I want them. So on top of the base, there's going to be 3 waterfall pieces. So they are going to be 6.5 squares. So 6.5 by 6.5. So this is our waterfall. So I said I need 3 of them. Six and a half by 6.5. And the last one. Okay, so that's our waterfalls. And then I need a band to keep them shut. Now the band can be any length you want, any width you want, but for mine I've gone for 1.25. So I'm using one of the offcuts. Let me cut it here. So it's 1.25, and the length can be anything you want. Mine, I like to cover the photo sometimes I like it short, so I'm just going to leave that as it is until later when I actually know what length I want. And that's our top bit done, so I'm just going to put them off to the side. It's got some nice big scrap bits here which will be used later on. So now we're going to start on the bottom one. So we're going to start off with the 2 flaps which open like a book left and right. So these are going to be my top flaps, and they are 8 5/8. Let me check if I can get it in here. No, so I'm going to have to go this way. 8 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. By 6.5. So this is my top flap, and I need 2 of them. So it's 8 and 5/8 by 6.5. Those are my 2 flaps. So I'm going to turn them upside down just like I did earlier. So now I'm going to go to the central flaps which open up and down, and they are going to be 7.5 squares. Seven and a half by 7.5. So this is the middle flap. Turn it upside down. And I need another one. 7.5 by 7.5. So once we've got our 2 flaps coming up, the next thing we'll have is a gatefold which opens in the middle. So this is now going to be 6.5 tall. And I'm going to get both out of this piece now. So it's going to be 4 and 5/8. So 4/8 is halfway, 5/8. 4 and 5/8. So these are my gatefolds. Turn upside down. So then we get to the middle, and this is where we have that big pouch to hold all the photos and documents in. And the pouch, actually let me check. Yeah, I can get out one of my scrap bits, is 4 inches by 8 and 7. Oh no, I can't get out my scrap bit. I'm going to have to get another one. I'm going to have to cut it this way. 4 inches by 8 and 7/8, which is almost to the 9. So this is my pouch. So then from the pouch, I'll need a flap to come over to hold it shut. So I'm looking through my scrap bits, see if I can find a piece which is 5 inches. I can't, so what I'm going to do, let's take it out from here. So it's 5 inches by 7 and 7/16. So 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's just shy of the 7.5. So this is my top flap. And now we're going to go back to that gatefold, and we're going to have those triangle pockets which holds it all closed here, and we're going to add some pockets on the inside too. So the triangle pockets are going to be out of a 4 3/4. Am I going to get out of that? No. Here we are. 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. And I'm going to cut this into the triangles. Now I'm not going to mark them, I think it's pretty obvious what they are going to be. Oh, I did have scraps I could have cut my flap out of, it was 5 inches. Never mind. So, the last little bit now is the tag pouches. So we need 2 of these, and they are 4 3/4 by 3.5. So I'm going to cut the 3.5 first. And then 4 3/4. Now I'm just going to move it back slightly because I don't want this pouch to overhang as I shut my gatefolds on the inside. So it's not even a 16th, it's just a hair's breadth shorter. That'll just give me a little bit of wiggle room later. So these are my front tag pockets. Sorry, the back. It's going on the back, not on the front. The triangles are on the front, they're on the back. So the last bit then, we need a photo mat to hold our gatefold shut. Now, this is what I did for mine, but you can make it any size you want. But mine is 6.5 by 6. So it's a 6 by 6.5. Okay, so you can make it longer, not much wider, otherwise it won't fit into the album. So this is my photo mat. So all our bits have now been cut and they've been placed upside down, so when I turn them up now they'll be in the order I want. So I'm just gonna put my trimmer away and grab my scoreboard. So I've got my scoreboard and my ball tool. I'm ready to go. So I've flipped all my pages upside down so they'll come in the same order I want to use them later. So first is my top base. That's just going to go straight down onto my cover. So I can flip that upside down to the side straight away. Now I've got my 3 waterfall pieces. They were squares, so it doesn't matter which way you put it up. But we're going to score at 1/2 inch on all 3 of them. And then my band, I'm going to do it at 1/2. And then just to give it a bit of extra give when I'm adding the bulk from the waterfalls, I'm just going to move it over slightly and do another score. So that I've got 2 score lines quite close together. So when I fold them, it's just going to give me a little space, which will just give me that room for the waterfalls in between. And that's my top inside done. So let's move on to the base, which is the part with the big box. So we've got our top flaps which open left and right. We're going to score these with a long bit on the top at 1/2 inch and 1 1/8. So just the next one across from the 1 inch. So 1/2 inch and 1 1/8. So see what will happen now is we're going to bring this score line in and in and in until we get to our inside box, which will mean that our flaps won't hit each other as we close it. So we've got our middle flaps now. Now these are 7.5 inch squares, so it doesn't matter which way I put it. And we're going to mark at 1/2. So for the top flaps we did 1/8. So this time we're just going to do it at the 1. Because that just gives us a little bit of space between our layers. So middle flap, 1/2 and 1. Then we've got our gatefold. We're going to do it at 1/2 and 7/8, which is just 1 back from the 1 inch. And turn them upside down. And then we've got our pouch. So with the pouch, we've got the long one on the top. We're going to mark at 1/2 and 3/4. We're going to rotate it and do the same, 1/2 and 3/4. Then we're going to put the short one on the top, I'm going to mark 1/2 and 3/4 again down the long edge. Okay, so it's 1/2 and 3/4, rotate 1/2 and 3/4, and on the long edge 1/2 and 3/4. Then we've got the pouches. Sorry, the flap for the pouch. So we're going to put our 5 inches across the top, so the short edge on top, and do 1/2 and 3/4 again. And turn it upside down. So now we've got our triangle pockets. I'm going to put a straight edge along the top and mark a 1/2. Then I'm going to flip it this way and mark 1/2 again. Okay, so we're leaving the diagonal as we are, so we've now got 2 score lines there. And the same with this one. Flip and mark. And then the inside pockets for those tags, 1/2, rotate 1/2 across the long bit, short bit across the top, 1/2. Same on the other one. Down the long bit, across the short bit, 1/2, and down the other short side. So those are our tag pockets. And then our photo mat doesn't need anything. So now we've scored everything, it's time to add some tape and score. Okay, so I've got my score tape and my bone folder ready. So I'm going to grab my top flap pieces first, turn them the right way around. So we've got our base, which needs nothing doing to it. Then we've got our 3 waterfalls. So I'm just going to add some tape just short of my score line on that 1/2 inch piece. Okay. Now these are our waterfalls, so they're going to be lifted back and forwards, back and forwards. So we really want to score these along that score line pretty well. I'm just going to train my cardstock to go both ways. So start in the middle and work out. That's 1, 2, I'll add the tape to all of them. Start in the middle and out. Just going to fold it the other way and back the way I want it. So the better you score these, the better your waterfall is going to sit later on, because you want it to sit quite flat. Okay, so again, I'm turning them upside down off to my side here. And my band, I think I already folded it earlier, remembering with that little extra space in between. Let's just put the tape down. So that's my top done. Now I've got my base pieces for my main bit. So we've got our 2 top flaps. Just adding my score tape again in that 1/2 inch section on the edge. Pressing it down. Move them a bit out of the way. And we're going to fold both of our score lines back on each other. So we've got that. So again, back and back. So those will be our left and right opening. So I'm going to turn them upside down again, put them to the side. Now we've got our ones which go up and down, but again exactly the same. Tape, tape, burnish it down, flip them over, start from middle out, middle out, so that's our top and bottom pieces off to the side. Our two gatefolds, so we're going to add our tape to each side. So again, down and down. Here's our gatefold. Now we've got my pouch here. We're going to add the tape from that second score line up to the top. So the same here. We're gonna take our tape up to, well, the first one from this angle, but we don't need to cover that little bit there. And again, between the score lines, across the bottom as well. Now, before doing any more tape for there, I'm gonna cut out all the bits here to make my pocket full. So I'm working in this corner here. I'm going to cut down this score line to the second score line, and again down the second one. Now this piece I can cut off. Now I'm going to cut this off at a bit of an angle. I'm going to cut this off at an angle as well, because later on they're the ones which are going to meet and we don't want them touching. So now this long bit is going to be cut off. So we're left with just that little square that was made with the score lines. Now, just so it doesn't touch the edges, I'm just going to angle it slightly. So now, when I fold and fold, this little piece will have a bit of glue on it and it'll just hide that corner nicely like that. Okay, so I'm going to do the other one. So we're going to cut down the two lines. Cut at an angle towards that corner square, and again we're going to come towards the square again, cut off the big piece and just angle it a little bit there. Fold these two bits, fold that corner. So now when I score these long bits, you should see how the pouch works. So that'll come in, glue onto that straight edge, and because we angled them, they don't meet, so we don't get that extra bulk in the corner. And the same over this side, we fold that in, and fold over. If you'd rather just cut that off, go for it, but I quite like that because it hides the join quite nicely and finishes it off. Okay, so that's probably the most complicated part of this entire album, and even that's not too bad. So now we've got the flap to keep it shut. So back as we were, 1/2 inch for the tape, fold over, so that'll be our flap, and then the triangles. So from that score line up to edge, I don't need to go to the very edge because I'm going to be cutting that off. Okay. So this is going to be a pouch, so I'm going to cut across there. If when you fold you find they meet, mine do a little bit, just trim it off at a bit of a harsher angle. And then when you fold it over, trim off the excess. Okay, so now I'm just going to score them down. And the second one. Up to the corner, change the angle just a bit sharper. Fold over. And trim off the excess. And there we've got our 2 triangle pockets done. Now we've got our tag pockets just down to the first score line, between the 2 score lines, and from the score line to the edge. Same on this one, up to score line, between the score lines, from score line to the edge. Just gonna cut, change the angle a bit sharper, change the angle a bit sharper, down to the corner, a bit sharper, down to the corner, cut off sharp, and just fold them. So I've still got them overlapping a little bit there, so I'm just gonna cut it off a bit sharper. There we are. And the second pocket. And we have our 2 pockets. And the last piece of card we got is our photo mat, which doesn't need anything doing. So there we have it. All our pages have been prepared. It's all ready to go. So that's all we've got to do now is assemble.